Hello and welcome to MenTality, a programme about men's minds today. Our first feature looks at how men feel about being providers.
Should women stay at home to look after children?
In this day and age, I would particularly feel not, because I would say they're equal to men.
You need to help the man to look after the children, so the man can go and work.
Do you think men should be the breadwinner of the family?
Not really. Women nurtured us. So, no, not really, no. It should be 50-50, to be honest.
As a person, I don't mind if my wife go to work.
Yeah, it should be, because it's too much burden on the woman. If he has to take care of the children, you know, it's not an easy thing to take care of children.
Do you think men feel emasculated when the woman is a breadwinner?
From a man's point of view, yeah. yeah. It does feel a bit demoralising if she's making the money and you're just... Yeah.
If she's okay with me, with the kids, that's my opinion.
Yep. Do you think the stereotype of the roles between husband and wife have changed over the years?
Now, the woman rubs shoulders with the men. They go to work, they take care of the children, they have much to do. The women have much to do now.
From where I work now, there are a lot more female supervisors and managerial people in position than there is men.
Do you feel pressured to look after a family?
I don't feel pressure.
Why not?
It should be my joy to take care of my family. I work nearly around the clock to make sure my children are okay.
It's all about communication if you're in a relationship, yeah. But it's always a 50-50 thing.
I feel like more of a father figure in my home now, but I didn't before, due to being in a relationship that sort of prevented me from being that role, taking that role fully.
I think fathers do feel pressure to earn and look after their family, but the pressure doesn't come from the family, certainly in my case anyway. I wouldn't say it was a pressure, or maybe an obligation perhaps, or something that you feel that you ought to do. I think it's from me.
I do feel pressured to earn and look after my family, yes. Even though your kids are independent, they're not fully independent. So you always have to be there with the money, not to mention looking after your own finances.
I don't think men should be the breadwinners necessarily within a relationship. And things have become more even. Women want careers and lives outside of the home and those kinds of constrictions, so people should be free to lead the life they want to if they can.
No, I don't believe that men should be the main breadwinners. Society has changed, and I think it brings more to the family when both partners were actually doing something.
I wouldn't feel emasculated if my partner was the breadwinner in the family. That would be fine by me, because time is valuable and it would free up time for me to do things I would like to do.
So I would take that role on if I had to. Let's say I would have to take that role on. If I didn't work provides a big part of my life. It is a big part of my life.
I don't think it is emasculating for men to show their feelings, no. People should be able to show their feelings, whether they're women or men, as they want to. I don't think men need to hide their emotions, no. I think it's cultural, historical, a role model that's part of a tradition that we live in, a part of, and is changing, I think. Some men probably feel it more than others. It depends on your background and I suppose the context you were brought up in and your family, things like that.
Being a role model is very, very important, because I think children learn through looking, observing, and I think if you're saying one thing and doing another, it's not really a very good role model.
I think it is important to be something of a role model to your children. It's obviously a very, very close relationship and they do look up to you. So I think you should set an example.
To a certain age, women should stay at home and look after the children, because this is not because any kind of sexist issues is to do with biological.
I don't think women should have to feel that they stay at home and look after the children. They should if they want to. If they don't want to, then I think other arrangements need to be put in place.
And now, to discuss men's mental health and well-being, I would like to welcome Tyler John from London Metropolitan University Student Union. Hello.
Hi, you're right.
I'm good, and yourself?
Good, thank you, yeah.
So, Tyler, what does your job as a casework advisor involve?
So basically, I'm the main point of contact within the Students' Union for all those students that are facing some kind of like academic or wellbeing issue. So for example, if they need to do a mitigating circumstances application, or if they've got like an academic misconduct allegation, I basically sit down with them, go through the application and help them present it to the university as best as possible.
What have you noticed about men's mental health at university?
It's quite a big issue throughout the entire sector really, because there's just very minimal funding for it. So the kind of support services that are accessible to students are just very, very minimal. So for example, at our own university, waiting lists, as a lot of students have already experienced for the counselling service, are in excess of like months and months and months. So it just makes things like counselling and mental health support really, really inaccessible at a time when it needs to be available to students whenever they need it.
Is the university doing much to promote men's mental health and well-being?
Again, I think the situation here at London Met is quite reflective of the situation in the sector in general. Because of lack of funding, there just isn't really the capacity to do much to either talk about mental health, to promote mental health, or to provide mental health services. So there's definitely a capacity to build on and improve that.
I mean, could you suggest anything that the university could be doing more?
Definitely. So, for example, I would look into employing more people to work in things like the counselling service to kind of ensure that as many students are being seen as possible, because like I mentioned, the waiting times and the waiting lists are in excess of months. And kind of breaking down the barriers between student support and having to go to that clinical stage of student support. So making sure there are more things in place that provide support for students before they get to the stage where they need counselling. So things like student support groups, peer support groups, opportunities for students just to get together and talk about any kind of problems that they're having, just to ensure that student support and student mental health is maintained at every single stage throughout the university experience.
Can you tell us about the mentoring scheme then?
Yes, so the mentoring scheme within the Students' Union is kind of a response to the mental health crisis at the university at the moment. So what we're kind of hoping to do is train a number of students to become buddies, and they will kind of be a support system for any vulnerable students, any vulnerable first-year students or students that might just benefit from seeing a friendly face. Like I mentioned before, we want it to be a stage before students go to counselling, before that kind of clinical mental health support where, say for example, a student just needs help finding a classroom, or they just need help talking about some kind of issue that they're having. We want the buddies to be a friendly face just that a student can speak to before they have to speak to someone in a more formal setting. We're really looking forward to getting the scheme off the ground at the moment, and we're hoping that students will either get involved as buddies or get involved by getting in touch with the buddy. So we're really hopeful for it, yeah.
In the UK, men are 3 times as likely to take their own lives than women. Why do you think men's suicide rates are so much higher than women's?
Short answer is, I would say, toxic masculinity. I mean, from birth, we're raised in a society that is obsessed with the gender binary. So the idea that men have to be one thing and women have to be another thing. And I think that attitude is so pervasive in the way in which we look at and the way in which we talk about mental health. I think being open about your emotions and speaking about the way that you're feeling is considered like a typically feminine thing, and because we live in such a misogynistic society, things that are considered feminine are considered weak and are considered bad. And I just think there is the automatic assumption with a lot of men as a consequence of that, that speaking about your mental health and being open about your emotions is a weak thing and is a bad thing because it's typically feminine. And I think as a consequence of that, a lot of men haven't been able to develop like healthy coping mechanisms and the correct channels of being able to like communicate their emotions and speak openly about like their mental health and any kind of issues that they might be having, which then contributes to the way in which mental health problems develop. So a lot of men don't get the opportunity to talk about their mental health, and it kind of eats away at them to the point where so many men are dying by suicide. I think it all comes down to the idea of men not feeling comfortable because of the society that we live in to talk openly about their emotions.
I completely agree. Could you tell us about the forums then?
Yes, so the forums are actually one of my favourite parts about working in student support. So every year the Students' Union facilitates what we call the forums, and these are for the NUS Liberation Group students. So those are BAME students, women students, LGBTQIA students, disabled students and trans students. So you have to self-identify as one of the mentioned groups to attend the forums, and basically what they are just spaces for those identified students to be able to network with each other, to kind of rally behind those associated campaigns, and basically just to be able to support each other through those shared lived experiences. So for example, I this year have been heading the LGBTQIA student forum, and it has been so inspiring and so refreshing to meet regularly with a group of queer students who all have like a similar lived experience, and just hearing them talking and discussing so openly about like their passions, their experiences, negative things that have happened to them, good things that have happened to them, and watching them all rally behind like campaigns and causes that they're so passionate about. And I think as a queer person myself, it's just been so inspiring to see young people doing something like that. Next year, the forums will be run by the elected part-time liberation officers that are coming up in the student elections now. So I think if you do self-identify as one of those, or any student does self-identify as one of those liberation groups, then I would really recommend that they get involved with that, because it's such a good thing to do.
How would someone get involved with it?
So basically what they'll have to do is reach out to the elected liberation officers. Like I said, those will be elected for the next academic year in this coming student election period now. So the winners of those liberation elections will be publicised, so they'll be all throughout the university, all throughout the Students' Union. And like I said, they will be in charge of running their associated forum for the coming year. So all the student would have to do is get in touch with their relevant liberation officer and then go from there. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us
You're
today.
very welcome. Thank you for having me. Lovely to meet you.
Next, we have a feature looking at masculinity and what it means to be a man today.
When I hear the word man, I think institution, violence, dominance, the past. I mean men as opposed to man. Men's the collective. So like, again, that's, I think if I were to hear the word man, it would be different, but men means multiple men, which is even worse than a single man.
Do you identify as man?
No, I don't. I know that I can read as male in certain spaces, but I identify as transgender fluid.
Do you, or have you ever felt pressure to act in a stereotypically macho or masculine way?
I, for a lot of my life, felt the pressure I have felt up until very recently.
Do you believe feminism is an attack on men?
I believe feminism is an attack on masculinity. Masculinity and men are two different things. You can be a man and you don't have to be masculine.
Do you believe that everyone with a penis is a man, or that to be a man you need a penis?
Absolutely not. Like, the foundation of my understanding of myself and of this world is, and what I believe is the most important thing that I can dedicate my time to, is deconstructing the belief that your body has anything to do with your identity.
Any other comments you want to, any rants?
I was waiting to pay for my cash, someone came in and was like, ugh, faggot, and then I paid and they waited in their car to shout at me again before driving off. That is men. That's men. Men. Cancelled.
When I say the word men to you, what words, thoughts or ideas instantly come to your mind?
Danger.
Do you identify as male?
No.
Do you believe that we live in a patriarchal society?
Completely.
Why is that?
Because it's like men's ruling everything, men's deciding everything. They're everywhere, they take all the space, and we just have to shut up.
Do you believe that feminism is an attack on men?
Originally, no. In my way to be feminist, yeah, I'm attacking men, and I do it like gladly. Like my way to express feminism is like to attack them, literally. It pisses me off that like each time you go out, there is people whistling in the street. There is people touching your ass. In a party, even more. People like dancing like next to you, touching you without even asking.
How important is a father figure to you?
But mine was not present, so like not very important.
If there are any, in your opinion, what are the best traits about men?
The best traits?
Yes.
I don't know. Fuck all.
What is the first word or words that you think of when I say men?
Secretive, dishonest, liars, unhelpful.
Man, I don't know, strength, money maybe in a way.
Romantic. Romantic? It depends on your experience.
Liars.
Do you believe we live in a patriarchal society?
I would say 50-50.
I surely do.
Yeah.
No.
No.
How does that make you feel?
It's unfair, isn't it?
Well, I think it's completely unfair for the ladies and the women. Disappointed.
You would think that back in the olden days, but obviously, whereas now in society, I would say it's equal.
But what about the the pay gap?
I was just about to say that. The salary gap. Men get paid more than women. But I know they're debating it now.
Yeah.
But that has always been the case.
Yeah.
Do you believe that to be male, you need a penis?
Well, isn't that what male is about? Because a lot of men, that's what they think is most important.
No. No, I don't.
I think so.
Yes, I think so.
I'm talking from a biblical point of view. Obviously,
Yeah.
being a Christian, and obviously Adam being the
That's how it
first,
was.
and
That's how
Adam
it
and
started.
Eve,
Yeah.
and that's how it started.
And honestly, to be fair, the experience with penis I think it's much nicer.
Yeah.
Our final feature is about different types of manhood.
How often do you go for checkups at the GP?
I go once in 2 months or something, just to be sure that I'm not suffering from anything.
Once every 2 months?
Yes, once every
that's
2
good.
months, yes.
That's quite frequent. That's more than
Maybe like once a year, really. Like
once a year.
maybe that's a bit too far. Like I don't know. I don't really check in with the GP unless it's urgent. Like it's something that it's kind of making me uncomfortable.
Okay.
I don't know.
When was the last time you went?
Years ago, probably.
Since the last time I've been, it's been 8 years.
Do you know anyone that's suffering from mental health issues? A man?
Not that I know, to be honest.
I am suffering from anxiety, or I was suffering from anxiety. I'm taking regular sessions with my counselors. I also use counseling sessions at London Met, and basically I'm combating it, and I'm progressing quite well nowadays. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Did you take that initiative yourself? Or?
Yes. I was quite an isolated person all my life, and then once I got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore, I started to reach out to people, and I wanted to help more who were suffering the same problem as me. So that was one of my motivations to reach out and take help.
Hi, my name's Abraham. We're here at London Met. Okay, we've got David here from Father Figures. What was the incentive that led you to start the Father Figures company?
Fundamentally, what I realised was that there was a lack of father figures for the young men and young boys who had fallen foul to criminal justice, or some of the boys who were struggling to manage their behaviour at school.
Do you think that African Caribbean men face bigger challenges in comparison to their European counterparts?
I think there are a different set of challenges, which is why my organisation, we support all fathers from all backgrounds. But we do have a specific project called Black Fathers Matter Too, because I recognise that there are a different set of issues that black fathers do face. I think that if I'm very specific to black men, I think that black men need to concentrate on being more present for their children, regardless of the status of the relationship with the mother of their children. I think that we need to concentrate on how we support our children who are clearly at more risk, not just to the criminal justice system, which research shows has a bias towards them, but also to other young people who seem to want to target each other as young black men targeting each other. It's a conversation that I know I need to have with my son, which some of my white counterparts don't need to have.
Just a final question, what do you consider makes a good father?
So I think time is probably the most important thing, and a relationship, having an honest relationship which is independent of anyone or anything. So again, whatever happens between you and mother, that you maintain a relationship with your child. So I think time would probably just be the most important thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, time is important, and you can't get that back.
Yeah.
So yeah. Dave, thanks a lot.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, I'm Rebekah and I'm here with a transgender man, Kieran, from New Zealand. Did you ever feel like you had to conform to society's idea of what a man is?
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. When I first came out, I felt like I had to be like super mask and kind of fit this big stereotype of being very very masculine looking, very masculine dressing in like very stereotypical kind of manly way, especially with my dad being in the military. I think that also played a part of that. So I think having a societal expectation is real rough, but if it's also a family expectation as well, I feel like it gets even worse. So yeah, it's definitely a pressure I feel like a lot of trans guys have, where they feel like they have to fit in with all the other men, and they don't realise that actually not most men aren't like that.
Do you think that changing our ideas of how a man is supposed to be will impact transgender men's mental health?
Making society realise that every man is different, just like how every woman is different, and how we all have different ideas of what masculinity is and what being a man means to us, will mean that we'll feel less pressured to kind of fit this box that we may not fit. And I feel like if you don't fit into a box that people keep telling you should be in, that's it causes a lot of low self-esteem. And I think not having to do that, like just being yourself and being authentic to how you want to be, whether that's like super mask or not, like it's up to you. I think that would definitely be a lot more freeing, and it would make you a lot less anxious, especially in like social situations. I know for me, being less like conforming to how other people want me to be has definitely made me a lot happier. So I feel like, yeah, that definitely would.
Studies show that half of transgender people attempt to commit suicide. What can we do to change this?
Well, I think really there's a lot of different factors that affect that. I think there needs to be a lot more education, not just in like social circles and things. Like I feel like everyone should have that education of what a trans person is, that it's not an abnormal thing, like it's not wrong or immoral or anything. And I think that needs to be translated into healthcare, schools, anywhere where anyone would be in contact with a trans person. There definitely should be more of an education so that no one feels like they're lesser or weird or different in a bad way. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
This week, I interviewed my friend Ackah from North London. He told me a bit about what it's like being a black male growing up in Tottenham. Let's hear a bit about what he had to say. So what was it like for you?
I grew up in Tottenham, N17, Bruce Grove, North Side. Being a black male in Tottenham, you're just, assumptions are made that you're gonna sell drugs or just killing people or robbing or just thieving, conniving, doing bad things. And growing up in Tottenham, it makes that made me who I am. Regardless if it was good or bad, it's made me this strong person that I am today. I've got to just shrug past a lot of things. People, they are not quite as open-minded as you think, very stuck to the postcode, and yeah, it's hard because I always knew that I was different from everyone else, so I was didn't see where I could fit in. Recently I've been saying we should all be thinking about doing therapy or just talking to someone, or it's good to just be in tune with yourself and know what problems you're facing and how to overcome them. Black men especially don't even go to or even think about seeing someone regarding mental health because no one's taught them to speak up about their problems or to face issues that they're dealing with. And just deal with it, shrug it off, get on.
Voguing is a form of dancing that grew out of the LGBT community in 1970s New York.
Thank you for watching MenTality. I hope you enjoyed our programme.